Japanese Grand Prix is the penultimate race of the season. We've had an unprecedented battle against the elements. Suzuka has been subjected to a 36-hour drenching. Hello there. For the first time in Formula One's 54-year history, Saturday's qualifying was called off. What happened was we had rain throughout Friday. The forecasters told us a super typhoon, including 170-mile-an-hour winds, were heading our way. So the circuit was declared unsafe and closed down. Basically, Formula One cars and drenched tracks simply don't mix. Witness the efforts in Friday practice of the Brazilian Massa in the Sauber, the Hungarian Baumgartner in the Minardi, and Germany's Glock in the Jordan. Come race day, the eye of the storm has actually missed Suzuka by about 40 miles. We had 2 qualifying sessions to decide the grid. Jarno Trulli, on his Toyota debut, makes a major political statement in Honda territory as well by going quickest in pre-qualifying. Come qualifying proper, Rubens Barrichello, winner of the last 2 races, slides at the end of the lap. That costs him a good 5 seconds. Takuma Sato's the target of the massive crowd's affection. As always, the best driver in Japanese history gives it everything, but he's caught in the same trap as Barrichello. Michael Schumacher's been on pole here 7 times. The drying track suits him perfectly. Schumacher a good ½ second quicker than the rest. So we have an all Schumacher front row. Ralph also getting the benefit of an improving surface. Excellent from Webber in the Jaguar. Then Sato ahead of Button. BAR needing the points in their 100th Grand Prix to stay in front of Renault. Trulli starts 6th. Fisichella in the Sauber. Coulthard still on the market, out-qualifying Raikkonen. Villeneuve's Suzuka knowledge paying off. The veteran Panis, he makes the top 10 in his last Grand Prix. Alonso and Raikkonen, they are side by side. Montoya down in 13th, he gambled on dry tyres. Klein, Barrichello 15th, that's his worst of the season. The Jordans, Heidfeld and Glock. Massa had a spin, he's between the Minardis. Enjoy the best of the Japanese Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
You know the drill. When the 5 lights go out, we'll be racing at Suzuka. 53 laps then. Start. No! Down they go. Good start by Jenson Button. He's right ahead of Webber already. So is Sato. Webber's dropped at least 2, if not 3 places. Trulli's got him as well. And has Button gone around the outside of Sato? Into turn 1 they go.
Tremendous action then. An easy start then for Michael Schumacher. His brother following him. And I believe it's Button up into 3rd place. Coulthard looking like he had a tidy start too. So clean, no contact from what we saw. And that'll be Alonso trying to venture around the outside of the S's there. So Michael Schumacher leads from Ralf Schumacher. Button 3rd, Sato 4th, Trulli 5th, Webber 6th, Coulthard is up to 7th, Villeneuve 8th, Fisichella 9th, Alonso already up to 10. Sato we're on board with then. The long sweeping right-hander before, it's very bumpy in there, and again without full control of the ride heights, the plank hits the ground. You can see the yellow stuff on the racetrack as the cars are bottoming out. And there we are, BAR then 3rd and 4th at the moment.
Yep, Jenson Button has done exactly what he didn't do 2 weeks ago in China, and that's had a cracking start. He dropped 2 places last week and off the grid in China, and that really compromised his Grand Prix. Still managed to fight his way through to 2nd place, but here today he's already got himself up into 3rd place, and he will be targeting that Williams of Ralf Schumacher because let's face it, BAR Honda has been faster all season than the Williams. So Jenson looking at again, trying to get at least 2nd place here this afternoon, but how much would he like a win? Big scrap going on there between Jacques Villeneuve and Giancarlo Fisichella in the Sauber. That's a battle for the final points position, 8th place. Fisichella lining him up.
Yep, that should be side by side down into turn 1. We're not going to see it, unfortunately, but not able to do anything about it. And now then, that's Alonso with the full attention of Kimi Raikkonen behind him. Raikkonen taking a little bit of time to get up to speed, and interestingly, Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher in the 133s, everybody else in the 35s and 36s. They're a country mile ahead.
They certainly are. 3.2 seconds. Michael Schumacher is faster than Jacques Villeneuve, and this is how Fisichella did it. We saw him lining him up down the pit straight, and that was candy from the proverbial baby for Fisichella. 2 seconds a lap faster Michael Schumacher is than Jenson Button at the moment. Look how close Takuma Sato has got to the back of him, and there was a whisper going round in the paddock that Sato had been fueled much lighter than Jenson Button in qualifying. He's on a 3-stopper, we believe, this afternoon. Button again chancing his arm with a bigger fuel load, as he had done several times very successfully this season, including China 2 weeks ago. If that is the case, Sato does not want to be behind him in the early stages of this Grand Prix, that's for sure. But unfortunately for him, off the line, Jenson had the better start.
Schumacher's lead over third place man Button, now 6.4 then at the end of lap 3. A man doing well, we've not mentioned him, Jarno Trulli, P5 in the Toyota, his first Grand Prix for this most bizarre situation where we've got drivers moving before the end of the season. We saw Webber getting away very poorly in the Jaguar, and that is how Button cleared teammate Sato around the outside of turn 1. We're on board with Sato now. See the Jaguar disappearing behind us off to the left, and Button already flashing up alongside, and then leaves it later on the braking. Just squeezes his teammate up onto the curb. Totally legitimate.
Ralf Schumacher comes into the pits from second place. This is only lap 10 of the Grand Prix, so very early for Ralf Schumacher. If this stop is anything less than 7 seconds, he's on a definite 3-stopper here this afternoon. We get whacked by one of the pit men. Hard to tell when the nozzle came off there, but look at this side by side. Coulthard and Mark Webber into turn 1. That looked very close indeed. I don't know who came out in front of that one. Hopefully the director will get his act to go and show it to us as Ralf Schumacher emerges then just in the middle, just around that Renault pack. 8th, 9th place, having made that pit stop. In comes Jarno Trulli, his first pit stop behind the wheel of Olivier Panis, I beg your pardon. His first pit stop behind his pit stop for the Grand Prix, his final Grand Prix, and well, he's drifted out of the equation really, hasn't he, down in 16th place.
There'll be a lot of people relieved to see Ralf Schumacher pitting so early, and they'll be very much hoping Michael does the same very, very soon, because he's just walking away at the front of the field. But Coulthard being very much tucked up behind Webber now, a good scrap going on there. I would suspect he wasn't quite close enough to make that move in turn 1. And at the end of the first sector, indeed, he's still behind Webber. So Webber 6th, Coulthard 7th, Fisichella a fraction behind him. And Alonso, having now cleared Villeneuve, he's 5.8 seconds clear of his teammate now, has cruised straight up to the back of the Trulli, Webber, Coulthard and Fisichella fight.
So Schumacher, here he is, leading on lap 11. His brother has pitted. He's rejoined in 9th place. Takuma Sato is in 2nd place.
Is that Coulthard through? I think that's Coulthard. Sorry, which one have we got? We're not on board with Coulthard. We're on board with Raikkonen. So, or was it? Let's have
no, he's got past him.
It was Coulthard.
There's the Jaguar, you can see, and it looks as though now Fisichella is going to have a go into turn 1. Mark Webber, a bit of a sitting duck, nothing he can do about the Sauber into turn 1. Fisichella sweeps through into 6th place. Coulthard is up into 5th. Meanwhile, here's this midfield scrap. Absolute clash of the titans here. Some of the biggest names in Grand Prix racing involved in this one. And Ralf Schumacher is in there as well, just in front of Villeneuve, with Montoya behind Villeneuve, Raikkonen then in 12th, 13th Barrichello, and Massa in the 2nd Sauber. You can see just tagging onto the tail of this bunch. What a scrap. There's Webber in the Jaguar. This is lap 12, so bang on target for the short first stint. There you can see Montoya coming in as well, and one of the Saubers, I believe that's Felipe Massa, pitting from 14th.
Okay, so no sign then of leader Michael Schumacher pitting. He's 18.5 seconds clear of Sato in 2nd. Button now 2.9 behind Sato, but gradually picking up speed. If we're right, then they are on different strategies. Still not looking too bad for Jenson. I suspect he'll be a bit disgruntled at that 4 seconds he had to give away to let his teammate through. Unseen, unfortunately, by the TV cameras.
Here comes Sato into the box. Lap 13, bang on target for the schedule. The short fielding, that looks like a 3-stopper to me, Martin, so it's going to be very interesting. The 2 BARs, we believe, on different strategies. There's Ferrari getting ready for one of their 2 drivers. Rubens Barrichello is the first Ferrari to dive into the pit lane. From 11th place, Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, he's out of position because not because of heavy fuel, but because of a mistake in qualifying. And has he paid for that in the traffic? As he pitted, it was 43.9 seconds now behind his teammate, including, of course, negotiating the pit lane. And he comes out well behind Montoya. So just a man who was on a hat-trick, really. A hat-trick of Grand Prix victories, Rubens Barrichello. Not looking good from here, is it? And that is Villeneuve then with a recovering Sato, tapped up behind Villeneuve. That'll not help his afternoon too much.
But it'll be interesting to see whether Barrichello, when Raikkonen makes the stop, be interesting to see whether Barrichello has leapfrogged Raikkonen, because he was certainly stuck behind him before this first round of pit stops. In comes the leader then on lap 13. Michael Schumacher comes down the pit lane speed limiter on, chugging along right to the very end. The Ferrari box, their position as world champions, gives them the first pit box in Formula One, and the clockwork action of the team. That's pretty much bang on a 3-stop kind of amount of fuel that's gone in, and out he comes. Which of the two BARs is that one that crosses the line? Jenson Button. So you see, that's interesting. He was able to pit and rejoin in front of Button, just in front. So that's about the margin, 22 seconds, as we say.
Big fight going on then. This is just catching hold of so many changes now that they've pit stopped. There then is the crew getting ready for what must be Jenson Button, as Michael Schumacher still steaming around there in the 133s. Coulthard the only other man in the 33s. Button pits now, and let's see where he rejoins on the racetrack. Ted can take us through the pit stop.
Absolutely crucial. It's happening right in front of me. Jenson hits his marks very well. Ralf Schumacher's his target, I believe, in this stop. It's going well, of course. The first of 2 stops for Jenson. Let's see how he gets away. That's a good getaway. 9.2 seconds. Remember how slow he was in China getting away. They fixed that problem at VAR.
Coulthard and Villeneuve also pitting on the same lap. There is Jacques Villeneuve, who had got himself up into 6th place as a result of all the changes, but he's going to drop well back after this. But the crucial thing is, where is Jenson Button going to feed back into the system? Certainly expecting to be somewhere around 7th place. Christian Klien is 7th at the moment in the Jaguar. He has yet to make a stop. Only one of the front runners now who has yet to make a pit stop this afternoon, Christian Klien. So again, that qualifying lap of his, Martin, not too bad in light of how much fuel he's carrying.
Now, he did a good job this morning in, I think, the most challenging conditions I've ever seen in 22 years of coming to Grand Prix. I can't imagine a tougher job than these guys have had today. Quali 1 this morning, then followed by qualifying 2. Changing track, totally unknown setup. He hadn't driven the circuit before, had Klien, and it's just been a brilliant day. It's been so much better to have action on a Sunday morning. Everybody came in with a purpose this morning instead of wobbling in and getting their sleepies out of their eyes because nothing happens until the cars go to the grid. It's been much better.
Yeah, I wonder if Bernie Eccleston will be looking at this. He's always wanted to have 2-day Grand Prix weekends with lots happening on Sunday, but I imagine the circuit owners, they want to spread it out a bit longer. And someone's off the road, one of the Saubers, and it's Fisichella for once. His teammate, he loses part of his bodywork there as well. Teammate Mass has been off the road 3 times this weekend. That's Fisichella's first off-piste excursion, but and he's come right up in front of, I believe, Raikkonen. Raikkonen was 14th, but well, I'm not quite sure. It looked like Kimi Raikkonen. And there's Rubens Barrichello, currently in 13th place with Juan Montoya in front of him. So at the moment, the second Ferrari struggling really in midfield, not able to break into the top 10.
So back end getting away from him, he had to start edging, turning right when he wanted to go left just to keep the back end under control. That's unusual. It's an unforced error there from Fisichella. Don't often see him throwing it off the road too much these days.
We're looking at the back of a Jag of Mark Webber, and we're going to try and pass him into turn 1. Watch this.
That's going to be tight, but he's got the racing line. Good move there from Montoya. Mark was pretty kind there. I think he could have closed the door a touch earlier because Montoya wasn't quite far enough alongside. As they went into the braking zone, Mark gave him the space.
Lap 20 of the Japanese Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher now almost 20 seconds up the road from his brother Ralf. You're looking at the battle for 7th place between Trulli, Montoya and Barrichello, as out of the pits comes Mark Webber. That's his second stop of the afternoon, so obviously not happy with the tyres or something on the car anyway after his first stop. He was passed just a moment ago by Juan Montoya for 8th place, the final points paying position after Christian Klien in the other Jaguar had made his first pit stop of the afternoon. He was 8th, he's now dropped down into 16th place. You can see here that Montoya and Barrichello quite a bit quicker at this stage of the Grand Prix than Jarno Trulli in the Toyota in front of them. And, well, people say you can't overtake at Suzuka, but we've seen plenty of action into turn 1 here this afternoon, and looks like Montoya pretty close up to Trulli, but not quite close enough. And, well, turn 1 seems to be quite popular today.
Certainly for Montoya, he's got good straight line speed and good exit off the final chicane. He left Barrichello for dead down that pit straight, as if Rubens had just got too much wing on the Ferrari. They're 50 seconds behind the leader. They're running 8th and 9th. That just demonstrates to you the incredible pace of Michael Schumacher, and Ralph back in the 31-minute 33s as well now, but they're just long gone at the front end. But there's 2 good scraps. You've got Button, Coulthard and Alonso shaping up in 4th, 5th and 6th. This is the best one though. Trulli, Montoya, Barrichello all very close, within 7/10 of a second. And look, this is the hustling and jostling that's going on as they lap the Minardi. And we're down to Ted.
I'm down at Jaguar. Retirement. Mark Webber is out of the Japanese Grand Prix. He's getting out. He looks in pain. They're looking again at the seat. I think you may well be right. Maybe it's a ride height issue. Of course, Martin, ride height's such an important factor in the rain. They had to get them just right. But Mark is just talking to his engineer. He's almost in tears, I can tell you. He says it was just too much to carry on.
Well, he'll not be sitting down much on the aeroplane home tonight if I was right and that was the problem, but something's burning him in there anyway. But well, the physio's got a job on his hands there, hasn't he?
Yeah, big disappointment for Jaguar though. Webber qualifying 3rd on the grid, another ray of hope, big morale boost. The team up for sale, Ford Motor Company deciding to pull out of Formula 1 at the end of this season. They've put what is a very good team indeed. 350 people there in Milton Keynes, worked very hard since the Jackie Stewart days, Stewart Ford, and they've had good years and bad years over the time that they've been known as Jaguar Racing, but they would love to have gone out on a high today with perhaps 1 or 2 points. But Webber, well, the car just not quick enough when it really counted. He was a bit of a sitting duck for Montoya, who's now trying to get himself past Jarno Trulli, and it's retirement, the first retirement then of the afternoon, amazingly, for Mark Webber. And well, this is the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th. And, well, Jarno Trulli is lapping about 2.5 seconds slower than Michael Schumacher. Montoya close, though, on the run down to the chicane, alongside him, Barrichello along the back as well. Montoya's gone too deep, and has Barrichello got past Montoya? Yes, he has! Barrichello kind of saw that coming, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was in the perfect place there. Montoya had to try and make the move, and now he's under pressure from a recovering Fisichella, who bounced across the gravel trap, and Fisichella makes it stick too, and Barrichello goes through on Trulli. Trulli's been holding them all up quite badly, and that is a major result for Rubens Barrichello. But I think it's going to help his points. But he's 59 seconds behind his teammate now. But at least for the first time this afternoon, Rubens Barrichello can let that Ferrari go.
Yeah, he's 23 seconds though off a podium finish, and I'm sure that will be his target now. He is up into 7th place. And Takuma Sato currently the final podium position, as you can see there on your screens, in 3rd place, and he's 24 seconds up the road from Rubens Barrichello. So that's Rubens' target. A big push for him.
We've got a great fight coming up. Button, Coulthard, Alonso, and now Barrichello straight into the 1-minute 33s as Ralf Schumacher pits for the 2nd time. But Barrichello flying now and almost matching the pace of Michael Schumacher. And so we're going to see him cruising right up there, I think, in, as I say, in the Button, Coulthard, Alonso scrap. Ralph pits then, just seems, it's very slippery down there. You go through a rain gully as well as you come towards your mechanic. It's so easy to dive in there too quickly and mow down half your men. You really have to take it easy here at Suzuka on the pit stop. And there then it's Button and Coulthard. Ralph goes out behind them, and that's quite important too, because they've all got to stop the same amount of times now. So that's looking good for Button and Coulthard.
It certainly is, because they're yes, exactly, they're on 2-stop strategies, Button and Coulthard, where Ralf Schumacher is on a 3. So he really needed to get out in front of these 2 guys, much as Michael Schumacher did for the first round of pit stops. He has not managed to do that.
Toyota getting ready for Panis has already been in twice, so we can only assume that's for Jarno Trulli. Although Panis out of sync with one of those, complaining to the team on the radio about handling problems we're hearing from the F1 ITV pit crew. And indeed it is Jarno Trulli then in the Toyota, his first drive for Toyota.
In he comes. A lot of Toyota employees here this weekend. They own their own racetrack at Mount Fuji. Remember back in 1976 where James Hunt won the World Championship there in the rain? Well, they bought it. They've spent a lot of money on doing it up, and their boss, here in Formula One, Tomita-san, was saying on Friday that he wants to take the Japanese Grand Prix there as Michael Schumacher pits on lap 27, the race leader. He's got a big margin in his pocket over Takuma Sato. He will be able to rejoin comfortably in the lead here this afternoon. The battle really, I think, is between Sato and Ralf Schumacher for second place and Button and Coulthard for third place in this Grand Prix this afternoon. But don't rule out Button and Coulthard if they find a bit more pace. Don't rule out them also being in that scrap for second here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher looks pretty comfortable at the front, but a four-way battle possibly for second place here this afternoon.
Yeah, it depends on how Alonso and Barrichello keep moving up as well. They might even make it a 5- or 6-way battle. Sato pits in second place then. He's on a 3-stopper, remember. So one more to come out of this. Should be 6-7 seconds. And we've missed him going away. So spot on then, and away he goes.
Okay, lap 27 as Sato rejoins in front of Rubens Barrichello. That was important, but it shows you how much Barrichello, how much progress he's making here this afternoon. Still to make his second stop though, Rubens Barrichello, so that's quite important. Sato rejoining. That is the top 8 as we are at half distance in the Japanese Grand Prix. There's Button in second place. He's pretty accustomed to finishing second this season. He's done it on several occasions. 8 podium finishes already this season. What a year it's been for Jenson Button. "25 laps to go in this 53-lap Japanese Grand Prix. Rubens Barrichello exits the pits, and from 7th place before he came in. Juan Montoya was behind him in 8th place, albeit 9 seconds behind him. It looks like that gap has been maintained as he rejoins in front of the Sauber, I beg your pardon, of Giancarlo Fisichella, who was in 11th place then, having just made his second stop of the afternoon. Michael Schumacher has stopped twice. He's in the lead by 21 seconds from Jenson Button, who has stopped once on a different strategy from Michael Schumacher. They both have one more pit stop to make. David Coulthard is in 3rd place, but dropping back a little bit now from Jenson Button, having got quite close to him just earlier on.
Second and hopefully final stop for David Coulthard from what was 3rd place. Ralf Schumacher's passed him on the racetrack as he was bumbling down the pit lane on the rev limiter, and what a good chunk of gas gone in there. That'll see him to the end of the Grand Prix. He's just got to chase Button hard, because I think he's got a chance of being ahead of Ralf Schumacher, and the pair of them should leapfrog Takuma Sato as well. So I think Button and Coulthard could and should be fighting for 2nd and 3rd in this Grand Prix, with a watchful eye on Ralf Schumacher. And Alonso then, again, a regular fill, nothing spectacular, neat, tidy, just what they need to do.
I was saying, there he is, feeding back out. That's Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari, so that's another place that Barrichello's made up. Fernando Alonso, who was up the road from him before that second round of stops. But Button, well, the strategies are going to converge around the time that the 3 stoppers make their final stop, and on that basis, Button is definitely going to get himself ahead of Sato. And looking pretty good here this afternoon. Yeah,
Button in the 1:33s as well, now that we've talked so much about, but he's really pumping in his best stuff just at a very, very good time. And the mechanics, we're hearing, have gone back in to the garage, which is somewhat curious.
Certainly is. Button stopped on lap 15, first time round. We predicted him coming back in around 34 or 35. This is lap 35. There is Takuma Sato, using all of the racetrack and a bit more to put a lap on the Minardi there of Gianmaria Bruni. 304 kilometers an hour through 130R. That's pretty fast. That's not far off 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, they were pretty pumped up, weren't they? Absolutely pumped up, the Japanese fans. Sato was looking good and Toyota were looking good, but unfortunately Toyota down in 12th and 16th at the moment, and Sato in great danger of not being on the podium at this stage. We'll see how it shakes out as Renault get ready for what should be the final stop for Villeneuve.
Now BAR are going to have to get Jenson Button in and get him back out again in the gap between Sato and Coulthard. At the moment Sato's 4th and Coulthard is 5th. and there's 8 seconds between them. That's what they're going to try and insert Jenson Button back out into. It'll be very interesting to watch as Villeneuve pits from 11th place now.
Yeah, and looking at that as we watch Villeneuve, you saw as they go over the rain gully there, your front wheel locks up. Nothing you can do about that. You just have to approach your pit garage more carefully. But it's interesting because Ralf Schumacher is 23 seconds ahead of Coulthard with one more stop to make. He can get in and out in that time, can't he? So it is very close between Ralf Schumacher, Jenson Button and David Coulthard.
Yep, that's the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th place on the racetrack. Sato, is he involved in that battle as well? Possibly not. He seems to have lost a little bit of time in this stint of the Grand Prix, Takuma Sato. Remember, he was released by the BAR team. He was stuck up behind Jenson Button. They let him through. Here is Button. This is an important stop here this afternoon. Ted Kravitz, take us through it.
Here we go then, Jenson Button, oh, hotter than the wasabi into that pit box, but it's a good on the marks there. The tyres are on. This is going to be so tight with Coulthard. He can't afford to lose any time here. That's a good getaway, though, by Jenson Button.
There goes Takuma Sato, as we said. He's going to fill it in right behind Sato. Coulthard up at the top of your screens in the McLaren, I believe. That's him coming down. Yes, there he is. So comfortably back out in front. He had a couple of seconds margin over Coulthard before Coulthard made his second stop. So Button back out and looking very good here for 2nd place yet again in a Grand Prix this weekend. Michael Schumacher seems bulletproof at the front. We've got, however, a tremendous battle between Ralf Schumacher, Jenson Button, David Coulthard, and possibly even Sato and Barrichello as well. But certainly 3 drivers battling for 2nd and 3rd, the final podium positions. And they're on different strategies here this afternoon. Ralf Schumacher, Sato and Barrichello all on 3-stoppers. Barrichello was on a 3-stopper, but he's bent the front left suspension. Wow.
And it's Coulthard. It's Coulthard that he's hit. They were pretty close they're on a different strategy, but they were close on the racetrack, and it looks like retirement for David Coulthard. What a shame. It's his right front. They've been quite clear. What's unusual there is well, it was Rubin's left front. They must have been side by side somewhere. Rubin's left front and DC's right front. So quite clearly they've gone side by side. I suspect in the final chicane. Ted, do you know anything?
Yes, I'm down at McLaren. It's all over for David Coulthard. It's the front right suspension. It's all askew. Rubens Barrichello very, very slowly into the pits. That also looks terminal, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh, but then Michael Schumacher's right behind him.
Yeah, they wanted Barrichello out of the way there. Desperately wanted him out of the way because Michael Schumacher was coming in for a stop. There was no danger of the two colliding. Barrichello didn't realise that Schumacher, his teammate, was right behind him. Schumacher rejoins comfortably after his 3rd and final stop of the afternoon. Well, we saw Mark Webber also retiring earlier on as Rubens Barrichello climbs out of his car, and Webber is talking now with Louise Goodman.
Yeah, Mark's cooled down enough to come out and have a chat with us. Nothing too singed, I hope, Mark.
No, the skin is starting to break, but it was really strange, really bloody frustrating, because to have a driver retirement after all the effort that goes in, it's really frustrating. But after 6 or 7 laps, the right-hand side of the seat was incredibly hot, and I thought it would stay there. I thought, man, if I can stay here, I'll be okay. But after the first stop, it just getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and the seatbelt buckle was on the right-hand side was just like really, really hot water on my skin. And the guys tried with some water down my back at one of the stops, but it was not working.
Well, bad news then for Mark Webber. We're just trying to work out what's going on between Ralf Schumacher and Jenson Button while we were hearing that.
Yeah, it looked to me very much as though Ralf Schumacher making a stop. He'd had a very strong run leading up to his 3rd and final pit stop of the afternoon. He came out behind Takuma Sato, who's yet to make his 3rd and final stop of the afternoon. But crucially, Ralf came out in front of Jenson Button. So Button has not been quick enough in this 3rd stint, and that means Ralf Schumacher is now the favourite to finish 2nd here this afternoon. And Button is going to have to, well, he's going to have to pass him on the racetrack. 13 to go here at Suzuka, and quite a significant change there. Waiting to see it on the racetrack, but I believe that Ralf Schumacher is a second or two ahead of Jenson Button. Just 9 laps to go then in the Japanese Grand Prix. We're riding on board with Takuma Sato, who's down in 4th place. The race leader is Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher is in 2nd place. Jenson Button third, Sato fourth. We saw a clash between Rubens Barrichello and David Coulthard a moment ago.
And Louise is down with Rubens right now.
Rubens, tell us exactly what happened there.
Oh, I was coming quite fast to overtake this year, and basically I wanted to get him by surprise because my car was running beautifully on the 130R. So I've done it flat, and then I just got him by surprise. But I don't know if he didn't see or what, but the impact was quite severe because he closed the door. It's difficult to say if it was anybody's fault. It's just that, you know, I couldn't lose much time, and he was like 2 seconds slower, so I had to go for it.
Thanks, Rubens.
Well, it's been an entertaining afternoon. We've spent a lot of time looking at Takuma Sato, but at the front, the two Schumacher brothers pulling away from the BAR Hondas off the start line. Mark Webber in third on the grid, dropping down to fifth early on. You can see Sato there just adjusting his helmet. I think he's just doing something on the right-hand side of his helmet, but Sato and Button were scrapping for a fairly distant third behind the two Schumacher brothers early on. Then we saw Sato going past. He was on a different strategy from his teammate, and while Martin and I speculating that Martin speculating the 4 seconds that Button lost on that lap, letting Sato through, that was the exact margin he was behind Ralf Schumacher when Ralf emerged from his third stop. Button appeared to have done enough to take second place here this afternoon, but well, Ralf Schumacher managed to come out from his final pit stop ahead of Jenson Button, and those 4 seconds potentially from moving out of the way for Sato cost Button second place here this afternoon. Nevertheless, looks like BAR Honda on target to seal, perhaps not sealed second place in the World Championship, but make it very unlikely they're going to lose it to Renault in the final Grand Prix in Brazil in 2 weeks' time. Tremendous midfield scraps involving some very big names in Formula One: Raikkonen, Villeneuve, Alonso, Montoya and Barrichello all together. Louise Goodman had Rubens Barrichello's side of the story. Now she's getting David Coulthard's.
Well, Rubens told me that he wanted to catch David by surprise, which I guess he did in a way. Had you seen him coming up behind you?
Yeah, no, obviously I knew he was catching and I knew he was quick. But I was flat through 130R, so when I overtook Mark there earlier in the race, then he wasn't flat there, so you could carry the momentum. So I think it was a little optimistic, but yeah, you know, when you consider what I did to Ralf in China, then you have to say that's a payback, because it was optimistic there as well.
It was all going so well up till then.
Yeah, very strong race, 2 stops. Struggling a little bit, first few laps, and that last set of tyres, a lot of oversteer. But nonetheless, I think our pace was good enough to have Sato, so we would have been there.
Villeneuve being lapped and by the leader, so Villeneuve 9th place man, then now a lap down. 23 seconds up the road is Fisichella, and he's hunting down Montoya for 7th and 8th.
Yep, looks like Felipe Massa, you can see there in the Sauber, is hunting down Jacques Villeneuve. That's the battle for 10th and 11th places. Massa really has hauled him in the last couple of corners. Villeneuve having to go offline to let Michael Schumacher through. That certainly cost him, didn't it? As Massa gets up very, very close behind him. Everyone just spaced out, as you say, Martin, in the top 8. Just Montoya with Fisichella a couple of seconds behind him. That little last battle for the final 2 World Championship points. Massa having a look at Villeneuve going down the inside. He's been thinking about that for a while. Villeneuve goes defensive. Nice defensive driving indeed by Jacques Villeneuve. Massa had a crack at it, but Jacques showed all his experience there and his pride. He's not going to let Felipe Massa go past. And remember, Villeneuve is driving for the Sauber team next year, but Massa just so much quicker.
4 retirements. Baumgartner in the Minardi, we saw him parked up in the gravel. Coulthard, collision with Barrichello, and Webber then with some heat being transmitted through his seat and seat belt, which he couldn't bear any longer, and just got some skin burns, it seems. But 16 runners then at this stage. Ted.
Yeah, a bit of concern amongst the mechanics about Takuma Sato fiddling with the straps at the back of his helmet. He hasn't said anything on the radio to complain about it, so it's not enough for him to have to make a pit stop, not the kind of pain Webber was in, but the mechanics down here think it's a problem with the straps on his hands device.
Michael's lapping 3 seconds off his sort of normal. He's slowing down, he's just letting Massa go past to give him a run. Effectively it's almost a sister car, isn't it? But he let Massa unlap himself. So Massa unlap himself, and he's just cruising, just didn't want to get in the way, and he's absolutely coasting. If you watch him through 130R, he's about 4 or 5 meters away from the outside of the racetrack. He's just absolutely wandering around there, and also wondering where the rest of them got to.
Well, he might wonder. Very relaxed on the pit wall, only a 2-banana strategy probably today for Ross Brawn. Not a great deal of thinking for him to do. with Michael Schumacher imperious at the front. He's moved past Gerhard Berger now. He's the second most experienced Formula One driver of all time. He's 46 though, behind Riccardo Patrese, who did 257 Formula One Grand Prix. I wonder if Schumacher will eclipse that record. Perhaps it'll be the only record left uneclipsed, depending on how long he goes on in this extraordinary career.
But that's a sign of the times, isn't it? The Ferrari team just getting ready to wander over to and cheer their man over the line. No fingernail biting of, can we do it, can we do it? Incredible. Ted has some more news for us.
Down at Renault, Jacques Villeneuve's problem is understeer on this set of tyres. His lap times have been all over the place. A 1:37 this lap, a 1:38 the last one. So bad understeer hindering that Renault.
On to the last lap then for the world champion. Into turn one he goes, and the Ferrari crew, all 60 plus of them that travel to every Grand Prix around the world, they've got a huge budget, and boy do they use it well. Schumacher looking for Ferrari's 15th win out of 17 Grand Prix so far this season. It really has been an extraordinary year for them. And his winning margin over his brother, well, I think he's backing off to make it look like the margin was significantly less, but the reality of the situation is that he beat his brother by almost half a minute before he started backing off. Jenson Button looks like he's going to come through to the final podium position, his 9th of the season, with Takuma Sato some way behind him in 4th place. What could you say about this man that hasn't already been said before? He really is a hurricane of a driver. Out of the spoon curve, up the straight, past the pond for the final time. This beautiful circuit that's so challenging for the drivers. Every corner, they say, you have to take risks. Every corner beckons you on, asks you questions. This one in particular, 130R, taken at well over 180 miles an hour in full racing speed. But Michael Schumacher is in cruise mode. He is coming through to claim his 13th win of the 2004 World Championship. He's bounced back strongly after a poor showing in China. Michael Schumacher shows everyone who's boss. The Italian flags proudly proclaim the car as being made in Italy, but the driver, his gift made in heaven. Ralf Schumacher, terrific drive by him today as well, particularly bouncing back, and he seemed to have been held up behind Button and Coulthard, but that's a really good bounce back for him for his first podium finish of 2004. Meanwhile, Button, well, he's been up there many times this season. He won't be unhappy with 3rd, but he will feel, perhaps, that it could have been 2nd. And I'm sure they'll be reviewing that decision for him to get out of the way of Takuma Sato, because the seconds lost there potentially cost him 2nd place here. Sato 4th, Alonso 5th, Raikkonen 6th, Montoya 7th, and Fisichella 8th.
Ferrari rule in the land of the rising sun. Top of the podium for the 5th year in succession. The amazing Michael Schumacher saying sayonara, cheerio to the rest. Rejoin us for all the post-race reaction from Suzuka. And you are back with us at Suzuka, where Typhoon Schumi, Michael Schumacher, has blown his way to the 63rd pole of his career, just a couple shy of Senna's record now, and his 83rd career victory. It's a Schumacher 1-2 as well, Ralph's first podium since France last year. Button up there for the 10th time this season, absolutely magic that. Sato 4th, his best ever at home. Alonso, the only Renault scorer. Raikkonen, Montoya and Fisichella all in the points, but all bowing their heads to the supreme world champion.
Michael, Ralph told us that really today's result was an indication of just how good this year's car is, the fact that you don't actually need that much time to set it up. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. I mean, there have been circuits we really needed to work very hard to find the setup, but there is circuits of that style where the car suits very well into, and we were able to do as well as we did. But saying that, if you see the Williams, how difficult it has been this year, with no setup, it seems to work rather well here too this weekend. So it's just whether you get it right or not.
It was a great race, I think, and as you just said, it was a lot of work because we had some traffic. I mean, pitting in that early was dangerous, and it just hit the traffic as usual. Lucky enough, they had a certain pace, and then they went into the pits one after the other, and then I could pull the gap I needed to just get some past or by some I needed to. And at the end, you know, it's just good enough to be in front of Jenson and get the second. It was a lot of work, but we achieved it. That's important.
The car was very difficult to drive on the first few laps, but when I got into a rhythm and I saw the balance out, it wasn't too bad. So getting on the podium again is great, especially on BAR's 100th Grand Prix and it's Honda's 40th year of racing. So no, I'm very happy.
Could possibly have been second. I mean, you lost a lot of time letting Takuma pass. Do you think that was a wrong decision by the team?
Difficult one to answer, really. You know, we came third and fourth, and our main aim here was to beat Renault in the beat Renault in this race, and we've got 16 points on them now. So I think, you know, we've done a pretty good job as a team.
Didn't get a podium. That was disappointing things, but I tried the best, and at least we done a good result for today, so that was good.
So Michael Schumacher's 13th victory of F1 2004 means he's closing in on 150 points. Barrichello's first non-finish of the season. It's Button's first Japanese podium. Alonso looking all set for fourth place. Montoya overtakes Trulli. And Sato, well, he's putting a bit of heat on Kimi Raikkonen. In the constructors, the big story is BAR. 11 points compared to Renault's 4 means they'll be second, barring a Renault miracle in Sao Paulo. Williams scoring 10 to increase their lead over McLaren. Fisichella, the only other scorer for Sauber. Tony Jardine, the writing on the wall really from the start of this Japanese Grand Prix as far as Michael Schumacher was concerned.
Yeah, he was determined to lay that ghost to rest, wasn't he, from China and the tail end of the season. You know, once he'd been beaten by Raikkonen in Belgium, that was it. He'd had some pretty poor results, and we thought, here we go, end of season blues again. This time last year here, he struggled home 8th. If you remember, he hit Takuma Sato and had to come in for a nose cone. He had a shocking race. We thought, well, maybe he's done it all. He's wrapped up the championship and he's just cruising round, but not so here today. He really put it to rights.
Poor Mark Webber went backwards and Michael Schumacher just stormed away from the grid.
Yeah, it was a perfect start by Michael Schumacher, and Ralf Schumacher got away very cleanly as well, and then poor old Mark Webber got swamped away from the grid. But where were the fast-starting Renaults? I was thinking they might jump a few there. They didn't really make an impact. It was Button who got past Sato and went round the outside. And that surprised Sato a bit, and of course this was to pan out later in the strategy between them, between 2 stops for Jenson and 3 stops for Takuma Sato.
Sure, there was great stuff going on behind Michael Schumacher, wasn't there? Sadly, we didn't manage to see all of it, but Rubens Barrichello was very much involved, wasn't he?
Rubens was coming through for, like we said, watch from him coming from 15th place early on. You'd seen him tackling Villeneuve and Juan Pablo Montoya. This time Juan Pablo Montoya was having a go at Trulli, trying to get that 7th place. He ran wide, Trulli carried on, but Barrichello jumped them. Fisichella got through, and then after that Rubens Barrichello at the end of the straight into turn 1 had a fantastic overtaking maneuver on Jarno Trulli. And that's the sort of overtaking that Suzuka can produce, and we've had a very, very entertaining Japanese Grand Prix.
Right, this was all the product of a mixed-up grid that we got from qualifying and the race all on one day, I guess, Tony.
It is, because when you have those variables, when you have all those unknowns, and, you know, drivers having to guess on their tyres and engineers on their settings, it really does mix things up. It's superb.
We're going to have to guess a little bit about what happened between David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. I mean, it ended both their races. Rubens for the first time, I think, in something like 16 or 17 races dating back to the United States last year. And David Coulthard needed a good performance here, didn't he? He was unlucky.
It wasn't just that, Jim. The 130R has claimed so many victims. It's the fastest part of the course. It's a very hairy part of the course to put a maneuver on somebody like that. And as David was saying, essentially, you don't do it. I didn't do it to Webber earlier on. I hung on, I gave him the space and so on. Yeah. But we didn't see it. We saw the aftermath with both of their suspension hanging off. And they have strengthened suspension on Formula One cars because of those sort of tangles to avoid the sort of suspension falling off. But again, as David said, he made an optimistic challenge in China on Ralf Schumacher and put him out of the race. So
it evens itself up a bit. What did you make of that VAR tactic of Jenson Button pulling over losing crucial seconds, really, and allowing Takuma Sato to get past. It could well have cost him second place here, then.
Yeah, but Jim, I don't think they had an alternative, because you needed to release Sato, who was on the lighter fuel level going on the 3 stops. And Jensen knew that, and I'm sure he responded, you know, amicably within the cockpit, so let him go. But unfortunately, he had to slow down those 4 seconds or so to let him through, and that was crucial at the end. But at the time, it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Gave it the full banzai, didn't he, Takuma, and overtook as many as he could. Little Bruni and the Minardi blew him away, but it just ended up short of the podium.
Yeah, but it's another stage in Takuma Sato's development, and you'd have to say that this is his best ever finish here at the Japanese Grand Prix. He's had a 6th, he's had a 5th, and now he's had a 4th place, and he kept his head. He drove brilliantly, and his commitment when lapping Bruni, you know, as you saw, it was just tremendous, and swooped past him. And he'll still be the hero here, even though he wasn't on the podium. I think they'll make a little podium for him down at Turn 1, and all the fans will swamp him.
Thank you, Tony. So Brazil is next, the last race of F1 2004. Qualifying is live on ITV2 at 4:30 on the Saturday afternoon. Coverage on ITV1 11:15 that evening. The race live from 5:20 ITV1 on the Sunday. A great time that, and the highlights are around midnight. Here in Japan, another record for the incredible Schumacher. Pole and the victory all in one day. Good night.